We are the recipients of a proposal that was delivered to one of our representatives. It is not our recommendation. It is not our peace plan.
Welcome back to Wrap. Today's story is one of those moments where you genuinely sit back and think, there is no way this happened, and yet it did. Because what we're looking at is not some rumor, not speculation, not anonymous leaks. This is Republican senators, Democratic senators, foreign policy officials, and U.S. allies all discovering, at the same time, that the Trump team took a Russian surrender demand, ran it through Google Translate, and tried to pass it off as an official American peace plan for Ukraine. Yes, you heard that correctly. So here's how this unbelievable mess began. Senator Mike Rounds, a Republican from South Dakota, not a moderate, not a never-Trump guy, but a solid conservative, attends the Halifax International Security Forum with other U.S. lawmakers, including Democrats. While there, members of the delegation see a leaked 28-point peace plan supposedly coming from the United States. But the moment they read it, everyone realizes something is very wrong. The phrasing, the structure, the wording, it reads exactly like a document written in Russian and run through basic translation software. Whole sentences are phrased in a way no English speaker would ever construct them, like Russia is expected not to invade neighboring countries, which sounds like someone translated Russian grammar directly into English without understanding the language. Rounds immediately contacts Marco Rubio, Trump's new Secretary of State, and he basically says, "Marco, what is this? Why does this look like the Russian surrender proposal? Why is this being presented as our plan?" Rubio panics, denies everything, and claims, No, that's not our plan. That's the Russian proposal. It leaked. The press is confused. But that explanation collapses almost instantly because more senators, Republicans and Democrats, say they were never told this came from Russia. Ukraine says they were blindsided and had zero input. Europe was stunned. Even the Pentagon had no idea what was going on. Then Senator Angus King, an independent who caucuses with Democrats, goes on stage at the Halifax Forum and says the obvious. This document is clearly a Russian wish list that somehow became labeled as a U.S. peace plan. He says even reading it was alarming because it demanded that Ukraine surrender its eastern territories, restrict its military, halt NATO ambitions, and essentially disarm itself in front of Russia. In other words, it wasn't a peace plan, it was terms of Ukrainian surrender. Meanwhile, the State Department spokesman tries to spin the chaos, claiming the plan had input from Russians and Ukrainians. But Ukraine publicly said the opposite, that they had no involvement whatsoever and were stunned to see it. So what actually happened? Here's where the reporting from Axios, Bloomberg, and Reuters blows the story wide open. A Russian oligarch named Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund and a longtime Putin insider, visits Miami. He meets Trump-aligned Republicans like Anna Paulina Luna, handing out chocolates with Putin's face on them. He meets Jared Kushner. He meets Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy to Russia. And according to multiple officials, Dmitriev and Putin co-wrote the 28-point proposal. Dmitriev then hands it off in Miami, likely to Witkoff or Kushner, and somehow it gets sent through Trump world channels and ends up being portrayed as a U.S. policy plan. Trump sees it, probably not understanding or caring where it came from, and immediately adopts it, calling it his framework. J.D. Vance endorses it. Caroline Leavitt defends it. MAGA media pushes it. Suddenly, the Russian surrender plan becomes the Trump peace plan, even though it was not vetted by the State Department, not shared with lawmakers, and not approved by U.S. allies. But when the bipartisan group of senators confront Rubio and expose the whole situation, the Trump team panics and backtracks. Rubio first says it was a Russian proposal, not the U.S. plan. Then, after MAGA backlash, he flips again and says it actually was the U.S. plan, contradicting his own statement just hours earlier. The chaos is so blatant that even America's strongest allies, the UK, France, Germany, Japan, Canada, Poland, and others, issue a collective statement rejecting the Trump plan entirely, saying it would undermine European security, endanger Ukraine, and reward Russian aggression. They basically say this document is not serious, not legitimate, and not coming from a coordinated Western policy process. And it gets worse. Reporters asked Trump directly about the plan. Zelensky said it would force Ukraine to surrender its dignity. Trump's reply? He'll have to like it. And when pressed again, Trump says Zelensky can continue to fight his little heart out if he refuses the offer, as if the suffering of Ukrainians is a game to be negotiated. Even Nigel Farage, a figure openly sympathetic to Putin, says the plan is absurd. When a Putin-friendly politician calls your plan too pro-Russia, you know something unbelievable is going on. The truth is simple. Russia drafted a surrender plan. Trump world accepted it. MAGA media pushed it. And only when Republicans and Democrats teamed up to expose it did the Trump administration start scrambling for excuses. And now, as negotiations begin in Geneva between the U.S., Ukraine, and European allies, Rubio and Witkoff have to walk into the room with a giant political scandal hanging over their heads, a scandal where America's supposed peace plan was actually written by Putin's circle. It is a surreal, chaotic, and deeply dangerous moment, showing how vulnerable U.S. foreign policy becomes when personal loyalty replaces national security expertise. Let me know your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe. We're pushing hard for 6 million, and every one of you is part of that journey.